So what shift do you see in the investment landscape due to the pandemic, right? And are we looking at a funding dry up like in 2016?
So 2016, I wasn't there in VC, but I can understand what happened. Unlikely in my sense, unless there is a second wave. Okay, second wave can create a lot of issues. If there's no second wave, then I think for the non-affected businesses, I don't think there should be a significant issue. Valuations may come down a little bit by 10-15%, but not maybe max 25%, but not more than that. Because there's a lot of dry powder with VCs, and VCs were being cautious late December. So the entire unit economics dialogue, thanks to WeWork, had happened. So VCs had actually kind of encouraged founders to be a little more cautious to this thing. We're seeing some slowdown due to China. But we do have a lot of dry powder, and there is money with both Sequoia and Lightspeed have raised ginormous funds, and a lot of that money is available. There's a lot of good angel, high net worth individuals in this thing. So I don't see any issues at all. It's not going to dry up, but I think you have to be very careful with the right model. So this is not the right time to launch a travel startup. Much as I'm sure there are better ideas. So if it's like a really hot team that's been working on travel, hey, you're much better off like pivoting to something else, and thinking about it. But I don't really see it as a big issue. But no one can read the future. And if there's a second wave, a lot of what I said goes out of the window. At that point, again, it becomes hard to predict. So don't know. Is what I would say. But unlikely to be 2016 or 29 because there were structural issues then. So, but yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the present then, right? We are clearly in a new normal, at least it seems like that. It's going to be this way for the next couple of months, right? So how are investors looking at placing new bets versus pumping in more money into their existing portfolios?
So I think new bets, it will slow down. I'm not saying it because you're not going to look at all sectors. You really look at some sectors, and within that, there's a flight to quality. You look at so basically, the way I would say it is, if you typically did if a firm had 3 partners or 4 partners, okay, and each partner would do a deal every 6 months, okay. So 3 into 2, 8 deals, let's say they would do, okay. They might just reduce it to 1 deal this year, and if they've done a deal, they'll say just hold on because there's enough on the portfolio side to kind of hold your attention. So I would say that it'll come down naturally by 50 to 75%. Around 50%. Second is there'll be a flight to quality. That's why I would see it. I don't think there will be a sharp reduction, but it's just that everything will kind of get adjusted, normalized a little bit. The valuation get normalized, etc. So that's the way I kind of would see it.
So, just rounding back to what we spoke at the very beginning regarding edtech, right? And sustainability. So kind of just putting these 2 points together, we've seen that, of course, the pandemic has given edtech a huge thrust, by 3 or 5 years. But do you think that this will sustain in a post-COVID era? And, how will it impact the offline education play post-COVID?
Great points. Hard to predict, really hard to predict. My sense is that you'll start seeing more and more offline guys experiment with online naturally, multiple behaviors. One, in-person learning is hugely effective, but people have got used to it. So my daughter's right now studying physics or something. A teacher teaches her on Google Meet or whatever. So suddenly new behaviors, right? So he's going to save traffic, etc. And he's going to encourage online as well. So if you start seeing more and more, I would say I think the percentage will come down for sure, but it's not a dramatic move because don't forget, a lot of offline is also calendaring. We don't see those behavior. For example, going to a tuition center on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, it structures this thing. Second, it's also daycare, disguised daycare. You know that your kid is there, is studying, etc. It's also effective to study in this thing. But yes, if it's social distancing kind of gets reinforced, we're going to see more and more online happening. And my sense is very few entirely like a QMAT type of business will not get built. You'll start seeing at best hybrid businesses, which do like 2 sessions online, 2 sessions offline, etc. So my sense is that few things. One, we'll have more and more online happening because actually economics are better that way. Two, you will start seeing definitely a lot of the free audiences stop. So, they may go to something else or they may not continue. They may go back to the classes, like they may go back to quota, in which case they'll stop using Vedantu or Unacademy, etc. So I would say multiple things. It's very hard to predict. I don't think it'll be as gung-ho. It'll probably kind of won't be as sharp like this. It'll probably kind of may not go down for sure, but kind of grow at a less steeper this thing. But I think edX had a forcing function. Suddenly people are saying that, hey, it's there's no, like newspapers, right? It's unfortunate. People are without newspapers now for 50 days and people are saying, hey, we're getting by, right? We got used to it. We are able to read it on the mobile. It's fine. So edtech is some of that. So people are saying student is learning, ghar pe baithe, don't have to go outside, or the sir doesn't have to come. Sir is saying he'll charge a little cheaper. So that kind of stuff. So yeah, again, I don't know if I can give a clear answer because I don't know. I mean, you're just asking me this and I wish I knew the future. I don't. All I can do is I can at best say this might happen, that might not happen. Yeah.
I think not having clear answers is the best way to get insights.
Yes.
So that being said, another question that will not have a clear answer is, do you think that edtech companies are positioned to focus on tier 2 or tier 3 cities and rural in rural India, and are investors seeing this as a good space to venture into?
Yeah, probably all of us have been chasing India 2, as we call it, which is smaller towns. And all of the big ones have grown effectively because just look at it. Go to a small town like Amritsar or Kottayam, etc. They don't have that quality of teachers which Delhi, Pune, Chennai have, right? So it's a question of access. Second, the price. These prices are very cheap. You're getting like a high quality teacher. Quality, cost, access. All three are being met. So India 2 will be the kind of what I call tier 2 towns. All of that will be where you start seeing growth. Only issue there is they don't spend as much, but that is where all of us are looking at business models in that space. So yes.
Coming to business models, what other business models, and not exactly sectors, let's talk about specific business models. Which business models do you see doing well or that are COVID positive? Okay, no, not the best thing to say. Well, that may do well during the time of COVID or post
right?
it.
Yeah. Okay. So B2B, we're beginning to see very interesting kind of innovative startups emerge. All of them trying to help offline go online. So this whole thing is, so like LBB, for example, is a classic example of that in our portfolio, which is kind of helping merchants, or Empani, this thing, merchants go digital. So there are many variations around this. So you could theoretically have a model which says, hey, a lot of the restaurants are going to come up, or people are going to need delivery now. So delivery as a service, for example. Or are there areas in which I can take one friction in this whole chain and remove that friction, like for example. So we're going so for example, it could be like for example, let's say let's say people are using public transport. They may get more cautious about using the metro or the train, let's say in Bombay, etc. In which case, would people like to go back to, let's say, using their car, or maybe sharing, carpooling, etc. Are there interesting things around shared transport of trusted people that could come? Like, for example, like I may not be able to kind of do a full share, but if there's a trust factor that's built in, let's say second hand. So can you assure me that the thing that I'm buying, because all of, if you look at the average person, salaries have dropped. We've taken a pay cut, So they will be willing to look at second hand, but they need a trust layer. So is there a startup that can do this trust as a service, for example? So a lot of these trust layer, identity layer, removing frictions, etc. will come. And my sense is anything in the offline to online space, and there are many problems to be solved here, will do broadly well. Anyone who's in the sharing, the trust built in will do very well. So I think there's no shortage of innovative business models. So beginning to see a lot of them. Premium foods will do well. Fitness, etc. Anything which is like healthy eating, this thing, because people are suddenly conscious of this thing. I see all of them doing well. Virtual beauty might do well, like Zoom filters, so that if WFH. So other thing is to look at, for example, what if WFH becomes like 30-40% of all of us? What will we spend on? Okay, so will we need certain socializing things? So, for example, the one travel company I may look at would be offsite as a service, which goes to companies and say, hey, you guys have all gone fully online. None of you are meeting anyone. You hired a new engineer who's joined and he's working from say Bhopal, and he's never met the person in customer success person in Pune. Okay, so why don't you do an offsite every quarter? So all of the innovative remote companies have regular offsites at least once every 6 months. So maybe that could be the service, an offsite as a service, like completely hygienic, making sure everything's cleared. So that could be the innovative ways in which, or we'll do concerts as a this thing. Like, for example, or we'll get you together on every second Friday, and that evening beer party will become like this thing. It will be performances. So multiple models, and so really visualize what would the world be, and then look at how would you behave, what would you need. And that would be good frameworks. Yeah.